Hey now, everybody. The Sharks lose to the best team in the NHL. They lose to the worst team in the Pacific Division. Karlsson's point streak cometh to an end here at the halfway point of the season. So let's talk some Sharks while we all wait to see who the 49ers will face next weekend. I'm so addicted to hockey. Welcome back to the unfiltered, unedited, uncensored, commercial-free Sharks podcast that is the Pucknologists here on Teal Town, USA. If you're new to the podcast, remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Leave your take in the comment section of the video if you were not able to join us live. Remember, you can keep us commercial-free by using the Super Chat option during the live shows. Better yet, use Venmo and find us at Teal Town, USA. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, hit subscribe, leave us a review, especially if it's on iTunes, because that really goes a long way to help us out, and we appreciate it. And if you want to find us on social media, we're there, but it's not a requirement. So let's go. Sharks played 2 games this week, picked up 1 of 4 points, going 1-1 against the Ducks and Bruins. Through 41 games, they are 12-21-8 with 32 points, a severe step backwards from where they were at this point last season. Still 7th in the Pacific, still 29th in the league. We're going to talk about those games, Ryan Merkley requesting a trade, some takeaways from World Juniors. EK, probably, I don't know, the least surprised name to hear it go for the All-Stars. State of the Sharks after the halfway point, but let's start in Anaheim. Oh, jerk, man. Jerky. Finding ways to lose again.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Finding ways to lose against Anaheim again.
In overtime.
Yeah, I mean, I know one for sure. I believe it was the game where Erik Karlsson had the hat trick. That one for sure. I'm pretty sure both of the previous games against Anaheim, obviously not the blowout from a week and a half ago, but the 2 before that.
Yeah, both shootout losses.
The Sharks shootout losses, found a way to lose, as you pointed out, which, again, like, it's not like we're, needing every point this season, right? But again, to go back to kind of the message that you've been, sharing all along is like, you want to see good habits. You can say
beating into the ground. That's all right.
No, because I think it's a valid message to share. You want to see good habits. You want to see consistency. You want to see excitement, right? And it feels like you usually get, maybe 1 of the 3 on a given night, sometimes 0 of the 3. Right. And this Ducks game, I mean, you definitely had excitement for sure.
You had hope at one point.
Yeah, hope. But again, the consistency wasn't there unless you consider regularly losing to Anaheim consistency, then sure. But I didn't really see any good habits in that game. I mean, you get that big lead early, right? You're up 2-0, you're up 4-3, and you can't seal the deal.
Yeah, it's another time that the Sharks were unable to hold a lead. And going back to what you were saying for a moment, the Sharks have played the Ducks 4 times this season. As you alluded to a moment ago, they had the one good steamroll job over the Ducks, but those other 3 games, the Sharks either scored first or had a lead. And
yeah,
I'm looking it up here. They had multiple goal leads in every one of those games and would end up losing beyond regulation.
Well, not only that, but to even go a step further, like, I don't care if you're the best defenseman in the NHL, right? Like, how many games do you see a defenseman have a hat trick and then that team loses, right?
We're also, remember, we're talking about a team, if memory serves, might be the only team in the NHL that scored an empty net goal and still lost the game.
Yeah.
You remember Couture scoring an empty net goal with 90 seconds left against the Capitals, and somehow they managed to lose in overtime?
That was, I mean, that's kind of where this all started, right? If you follow the breadcrumbs back to, the time the Sharks have been terrible.
I look forward to the Dangle video on this.
Right. Like, the Sharks were bad that season all the way through, right? But I kind of feel like that game to go back in the depths, January 5th, 2020, that game kind of sealed it, right? Because if you remember, they had that really epic November, and then they were kind of average in December, and then just fell apart, right? And it's been that way ever since.
Oh, it was so bad. And I just want to let you know, Darius, I see you in the chat. We're going to get to that question in a little bit when we start to get into the state of the Sharks, but I wanted to just let you know, we see you. So this one was, I don't know, it was, the Anaheim game was weird because it was such a feisty start. You had 6 penalties in the first period and then nothing for the second and the third. LeBanc showing off his shot. I wish he'd sniped that thing a little bit more. But this game, it came down to a fluky bounce off another stanchion goal. Like I thought we had seen the end of that against Vancouver in the playoffs, but yet here it is again. Quizzical offside call, and then some horrific turnovers from Vlasic and Hertl. But one thing I don't think was talked about enough is that Anaheim probably could have won this in regulation. I mean, if you're Vetrano, how do you whiff twice? When
he hit the post twice, too.
Like, how do you hit the post twice with the yawning cage staring you dead in the face from 2 feet out? I mean, what's your go-to? My Lanta.
Yeah, I mean, well, see, every time I see, it's funny because you see that, right? And I always, what always comes to my mind is always like, oh, you're gonna have nightmares over that, right? And even even my fiance, she happened to be watching this game with me, and she I was like completely tuned out. And she was like, nightmares, and I was like, and I'm like, am I that predictable?
Now let me just ask you on the other side of this, because this is what it came down to. It was that the Sharks, special teams in this were about average. Sharks stop 4 power play opportunities, but they can't score on either of theirs. But it was the offside call. In what world was this not offside?
Yeah, I think optically, like, it definitely points to being offside, but like they mentioned, and they made the comparison to Makar in the playoffs last year, but it's kind of a weird sort of gray area where it's like possession but not possession, and
well, and it's totally subjective. It's totally a judgment thing.
Sure, right. And you know what? It's one of those things similar to like, when you're a player and you break your stick and you throw your stick and it leads to a penalty shot. Like, it's one of those things, like one of those rules that's been there forever, but you never see it. You know what I mean? And so it's, when it happens, it's kind of like, whoa, crap, what is going on here? And it's like,
who opened that page of the rule book?
Right. Like, it's so rare and so unlikely to happen, but like somebody still had the foresight to be like, you know what, we're putting it in there. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, even if this goal got called back, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that would have swung the momentum for the Sharks.
Mm-hmm. And oh yeah, I see that. Jerk's audio went a little skew just because I have technical issues, but I've already dealt with it, so it's all good. I don't know how that happens, but as they say, it is what it is. I think it's a missed call or a call gone wrong, whatever. The only other thing that I have to say about this game, I was kind of ticked off, is who was it Strome that I think like walked by Karlsson and scored? And then it was, well, Karlsson was out there for like a minute 35 and he was totally gassed. So you can kind of give him a pass on that one. I'm like, no. This guy's an elite superstar defenseman. If you're gassed, get off the goddamn ice and stop hurting your team.
I was going to say the onus would be to get off when you get the chance.
Yeah. So, it's like, I say get off the ice if you're that gassed. But to be fair, is a gassed EK that different from a, top line Harrington or well-rested Harrington? Who remains to be seen.
You make a sound point.
So this is another one where Kakkonen just, I know.
I just want to like give him a hug and just be like, hey, like
You're
we
so
know
right.
you're trying. Like, God damn it. Like,
Yeah, like I feel like I wish we could give you some more defensive effort, something to help you out. I mean, first back-to-back start since November, and it seemed obvious in this back-to-back situation. You're going to give him the weaker of the two teams,
sure,
try to
that's
build
fine.
up his confidence a little bit, but
Well, and you know what's funny is you look at the stats, right? Between, and maybe we're getting ahead of things here, but compare Kakinen against the Ducks to Reimer against the Boston Bruins, and
was it that
Reimer's
different?
right. Reimer's save percentage was marginally better, but they're in the same ballpark, right? All the dialogue has been about Capo Kakinen.
Mm-hmm.
This guy sucks. Why did we give up Jake Middleton for him? Blah blah blah, right? And then turn around. Oh, Reimer, what a guy, had a rough night. It's been a lot of rough nights lately, like I love Reimer, but like why the dialogue is only on Kakinen, I couldn't tell you,
Absolutely. Well, I think it's because he's the heir apparent, and everybody assumes that Reimer's out the door by the deadline. So
Sure, but again, like
Makaniemi, come on down.
right, but as we've discussed before, like you see all the time, like good goalies who are led to hell by shitty teams, and vice versa, bad goalies who get carried by good teams.
Yeah. Oh, but I'm sorry, I was distracted because Green Bay just went for a field goal and he doinked it off the bottom crossbar. Sucks to be him. Anyway, let's move on to Boston. Oh, yeah. Reimer returns, but I mean, dude, you're facing the top team in the NHL. This is going to go swimmingly, right? And actually, for a little bit, it did go pretty well. It wasn't horrible, but
No, they definitely hung in there.
for a bit. But special teams continue to go cold after a pretty decent run. EK 65. Let's hang it up. Let's blame him because he didn't score, right? After scoring 14 straight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, good job, but imagine if you had just done this one more thing.
Yeah, right. And clearly the officials from the Boston game, not the same as Anaheim, because all of a sudden things are offside or what? Dude, I don't even know.
I was watching a couple things in particular with this game, and one really stood out to me, and I hate that it stood out, but Mario Ferraro is so bad this year.
And this is a guy who, remember at the beginning of the season, was talking about, I really got to step up and with Burns out, maybe try to work on my offensive game and dude, fix your defense first, brother.
Well, I'm just like, again, we don't want to be mean here, but it's like, ever since Ferraro lost those two front teeth, like he kind of looks like Burns out of the corner of your eye, and then all of a sudden he's starting to play like Burns, and like, it's really
without
frustrating.
the offense.
Right. Well, and it's really frustrating because we've debated it and talked about it so many times this season, but talking about, Ferraro's biggest asset was his physicality and, being a pain in the ass to play against, right? And then you see on the goal, I want to say it was I believe it was the Pasternak power play goal to take the lead, where Ferraro has the puck behind the net. Pasternak's not even near him. And then Pasternak kind of glides in and just takes the puck, right? And it's like you can't move it to your partner, brace the boards, or honestly, I would have rather him just iced it,
Oh, dude, it was horrific. I mean, let's look at the first goal, the Marchand goal. I mean, dude,
what is he doing right there?
I mean,
Again, what's really unfortunate, so you look at that, there's 3 Sharks players there, 2 of them are defensemen, and the only player that's not the defenseman is the one who did the right thing. Ferraro gets beat. Now, obviously, Marchand ended up not passing it to the other Bruins player anyway, so it doesn't matter, but you would like to see Harrington stick to his guy over there on the chance that Marchand can pass it there and kind of just let LeBanc or Ferraro get in there. So it's a complete defensive collapse. And again, 3 Sharks players in there, 2 of them are defensemen, and it was the forward who made, I don't want to say the best play, but the smartest play.
Smartest play, but here's what I took away from this. First off, Quinn mentioned after the game that Ferraro was sick as a dog, which of course,
and don't play.
Exactly. And it's like, I feel like there's a player in the AHL that hasn't played in a couple of games that you perhaps could have called up for this situation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Play Cicek. Play, I know.
Play Ryan fucking Merkley. let all the fans say goodbye before he's out. But
if you want to get boost his trade value,
right? But I look at this play with Mario. It's like Marchand has control of the puck the whole time. What, dude? Why don't you just hit him?
Yeah, blow him up.
Exactly, light him up, Marchand. Last time I looked, not the biggest guy in. It's not Chara. He's a little pest.
And I could understand, like, if it's a situation where Ferraro is kind of draped all over him and then Marchand still gets the puck off, you can, you would look at that and you would say, you know what, it sucks getting beat there, but that was kind of like a once in a million sort of play where you completely shake off the defender. But Ferraro got beat like before he even cut to start skating backwards.
Yeah. Oh, but he was sick.
Right, and we've talked about it. How over the years, how many times have we said, like, if you're not 100%, don't play?
Yeah. But again, but the response is always going to be, but an 85% Ferraro is better than a 110% Cicek or whatever.
I don't know that that's true.
Neither do I. But you understand what I'm saying.
I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
Whatever. The one thing I did think was kind of funny about this game is that Boston couldn't get a line change after a couple icings, and so they end up taking a delay a game because they just kept milking it, trying to slow everything down and give everybody a breather. Dude, gamesmanship, sure. Classless gamesmanship. But go ahead.
So I don't know if you caught this or not, but did you hear, and again, I don't mean to disparage anybody, but did you hear at a point in the game, did you hear at a point in the game where the broadcast was saying, I wonder if the Bruins are so confident in their penalty kill that they intentionally took that penalty just to get more rest for their guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now, and maybe I'm in the minority on this, if I was a coach and somebody from the assembled media asked me if I did that, I would turn around and walk away. Like, that is such a stupid thing to insinuate. Like, you could have 100% penalty kill. No team is going to be like, you know what? I'll put me on there.
Yeah, but to be
I thought that was fair, a dumb idea.
Okay, but to be fair, considering that at this point the Sharks, I believe, had gone 0 for their last 13 tries, and what they had done earlier in this game, it was very kind of okay. They didn't bring that power play tonight. We can kind of do whatever we want. Right.
No, and again, I don't dispute that. I don't dispute that Boston ultimately didn't care on the play. Like, they got over it, and obviously they killed the penalty. But to just wonder if that was some kind of skill play, like, there's no way.
Well, my favorite part on the broadcast was there were more than a few times, like Meyer got clipped in the grill. I want to say it was that in the Anaheim game, or it was real early on in the game? Oh, it was McTavish. So it was in the Anaheim game, but he gets clipped in the grill. The refs miss it, right? And of course, the broadcast, you hear it's, Meyer takes one off the face. Refs don't see it. They missed that one. Blah blah blah. But during the Boston game, at least 2 or 3 times, I hear, the refs. I don't know how they don't see that or whatever when it's something against the Sharks, but then the Sharks, have some sort of a high stick, a stick goes awry or whatever. The refs don't see it. All of a sudden, he got away with one.
Yeah, it's like it's loud screaming in the streets,
Old man screams at cloud, right?
Right.
But it was a sellout. I think you can thank a whole lot of Boston fans for that, based on what I saw and what I heard.
Many people are saying.
Yeah. But, hey, all that money goes into the Sharks' coffers, so that's all that matters.
I was going to say, take the cash, right?
Yeah, dude, and run. So, 0-0 for these 2 games.
Wow, we got through this really fast.
Well, I mean, what was there to say? I mean,
it was kind of a brutal week.
Yeah, I mean, I said it at the top of the show. You lost to the best team in the entire league, and you lost to the worst team in your division. Now, am I mad at either of those? No. I want Bedard.
So what you're saying is the Sharks,
it was a good week.
They covered everything. They lost to the worst team in the league, or one of the worst teams in the league, and the best team. They literally covered everything.
Dude, I'm right there. So
let me ask you a question.
Sure, whip it out. Say it.
So, and this has nothing to do with the Sharks. It's Sharks adjacent. So
are you talking 49ers again?
No. So you look, and obviously, we've been tracking the stats all year. We know what this guy's been up to, obviously, but you watching the game last night, and it kind of puts it in the forefront of your mind, right? I don't know about you. Mm-hmm. I think I'm ready to give Linus Ullmark the Vezina Trophy. 22 1-1 this year.
I was gonna say, like, I'm racking my brain trying to come up with at least some sort of a counterpoint, and I can't.
There will be, when both the official NHL ballot that's going to come out at the end of April or the beginning of May, and the unofficial Tealtown USA ballot, both of them are going to have a hero, I'm sure.
Always is.
But I don't know how it's not him. And you know what? Like, you kind of saw that on display last night. Like, you could say a lot about how the Sharks didn't play all that well, especially in the first period.
Mm-hmm.
But man, like, there were definitely a handful of plays where maybe the Sharks could have gotten back in the game, and Ullmark was like, nope, I will take that opportunity, please. Thank you.
Dude, Pasta had a hat trick tonight in Anaheim.
Yeah.
Dude has scored 7 goals in 8 periods against California teams in the last 72 hours.
Well, and that kind of gets into a completely different debate. I feel like every year we always debate the all-star rosters and come to the conclusion that the roster size is dumb, the selection process is dumb, right? Like, we come to that conclusion every year. How is this guy left off the initial list?
I don't get it. Dude, is Pasta FA after this season?
It's either the end of this year or the end of next year. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent.
Dude, just sign with the nearest Pacific Division team, dude.
Yeah, UFA at season's end. So I'm starting to think that $6.6 million, I think he's going to get a bit of a raise.
Just a scotch.
A little bit.
All right, so Pasta, is that your hero for the week then?
It's a strong consideration. I mean,
makes a solid case for himself.
I mean, dude, like, he's on pace for 114 points. Like, that's solid, right?
Hold on, we need to get back to the Sharks, because the last time we veered off course, I got yelled at on some social media thing.
Oh yeah,
these
guys don't know what they're talking about.
How dare they talk about a former Shark for 5 minutes during their 2 hours and 20 minute
not even
podcast?
That. But it's like even right now, talking about the Boston Bruins, like, it's all relevant. I mean, the Sharks just played them. The All-Star rosters came out. Like, it's all relevant.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, I'll tell you.
All right, so
start your own podcast.
That's right. Who's your Sharks hero for the week? For the third time.
You know what? I really
say it.
No, like, can I do not applicable? Like,
oh, damn.
Like, who?
Who?
The only person who impressed me this week, like, this is how bad the things are for the Sharks. I'm being impressed by people doing, like, the bare minimum that's asked of them, right? Barabanov continued to play well. Good for him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Erik Karlsson was still very dynamic. Good for him. Like, I hate to do this because it's not good for content, but I want to say none.
All right.
I don't have anyone. You are the hero of this week because, you put this whole show together, and it's awesome and it's really great. So I'm going to say you.
Appreciate that. Oh, I look forward to the $5 in the mail. Oh no, Venmo. I mean, for me, it's just based on what I've seen is Vlasic and Barabanov. I think you could go either way on that. Both of them on 4-game point streaks, but I'm going to lean more towards Barabanov. I mean, again, this is a guy who,
in a row.
Dude, is getting it done, and again, like you say, doing it quietly.
Yeah,
you're not hearing a lot of people talk about him. If could you imagine him like third line guy on Colorado? Or so, I mean, dude, you talk about a secret weapon.
Well, and you know what? To your like the offense, you can see the offense, right? We talked about the offense. We talked about how hard he works. We talked about like just smart defensively, blocking shots, all that kind of stuff.
200-foot game.
Right. But here's the thing: something we didn't talk about last week. Guy is fearless. You know what I mean? Like we've talked about, like you see him get blown up and he gets right back up, right?
Dude, and
But
for his size, that's remarkable.
well, that's the thing. He's the shortest guy on the team. He's 5'10", and so like you
He's
said,
shorter than LeBanc.
right. And so you see he gets blown up and he pops right back up. But even then, there was one moment in the game against Boston where there was some nonsense by the net, and he was kind of first in line, like, let me at him, and so he has no fear whatsoever.
Some Hot Wheels coming in hot. How did Toronto not have a place for Barabanov? Dude, could you imagine Toronto right now with Barabanov on the third line?
I don't know, dude. You look at what Toronto is rolling with in their top six. Like, he very easily would be up there with their big players.
This is all dude, how Dangle isn't doing a cast every other week about how did you give up Barabanov for nothing,
Well, even I feel like, I can't speak to anything recently, obviously, but I know even as early as like the beginning of this year, you heard certain Leafs people being like, oh, he's still in the league. And it's like, okay, like how deep in the sand is your head? You know
who isn't? Suomela.
Yeah. He's in A league. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah. So who's your zero?
So I said my hero was you. My
nobody,
zero is
and
also...
now it's everybody.
No, you know what? And again, I came up with this last night, so it's gonna sound like I have back-to-back cop-out answers, but I got to stick to it. My zero for the week, I hate to do it, is David Quinn, because you're telling me, and I was thinking about this last night watching the game, and this is not a new argument, but you're telling me Noah Gregor's not good enough to play on this team. Like we've debated it, dude. At worst, the outcome is going to be the same.
Yeah, like at least
at worst,
dude. At worst, not only is the outcome going to be the same, but it's showcase him.
Yeah,
like maybe there's a team that needs a slightly lower version of Nieto. Somebody with speed. Not a lot in the way of hands, but plays a pretty defensively decent game. Like, dude, at least showcase him. It's not like Lindblom's lighting the world on fire.
Right. And I always hate like
Cunning's already gone for the season. So, dude, the space is available.
And, I hate when you hear people describe players and they say, well, he works really hard. I don't like hearing that because everybody works hard. Right. But
it's debatable,
but I feel like with Gregor especially, and maybe it's because he's a fast skater, but you can see it with Gregor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's, the cliche, right? He doesn't take a shift off. Like it's
I don't know. Metal Mario coming in the chat. Gregor sucks, bro.
Okay, but again,
and that's
even
fine. But does he suck more than Lindblom? Does he?
That's what I'm saying.
Suck more than Svechnikov?
Right. Even if that's true, even if he does suck, it's not more than who's been playing.
Yeah.
I look at that third line. You tell me Gregor can't play there. I look at the second line left wing, the second power play unit, the penalty, 3-on-3 penalty kill. Like you tell me there's no room for him?
But yeah, with those legs, it's like at least he'll gain the zone.
He at the very again, like you mentioned, the hands have a hard time keeping up with the feet and the brain. I understand that, right? But when you are that fast of a skater, it's a lot easier for you to get open.
I know. So for my zero, it's kind of a tie between goalies or special teams. Yeah. Is it time for Quinn to start spreading the talent around rather than stacking PP1 for 90 seconds with all the talent, your Hurdle, your Meyer, your Couture, your Karlsson, and then you're a proponent for stacking PP1 and leaving them all out there for the majority of it?
I am, because how I sort of look at it, right, is if these are the guys that you expect to be on the team once you come through to the other side, wouldn't you want them to already have chemistry playing with each other?
Fair point.
And I again, like you mentioned, that first power play unit, Hurdle, Meyer, Couture, Barabanov, Karlsson, really good fivesome of guys. I look at the second unit, I feel so bad for LeBanc. Like I wish LeBanc could get a rotation on the first power play unit, because and we love Nico Sturm on this podcast, but he's not a power play guy.
No,
and
but it's the lesser of all evils.
Sure, and Bonino's forget the power play. Bonino's not really done much of anything this year. Neither has Svechnikov, neither has Oscar Lindblom. I think was moonlighting there for a while. Like, even then, like Matt Benning was kind of the staple of PP2 for a while, and even then, there were a couple moments last night where Karlsson was out there for both power play unit or with both power play units. So it's like the one guy there, aside from LeBanc, where you can kind of be like, yeah, he should be there. Even he's getting yanked off the line.
Yeah, you know who the Sharks could use to quarterback power play too? Brent Burns.
No.
Brent Burns.
No.
No, save it. Hold
Brent
on.
Burns at forward.
Yeah, no, dude. Lacey coming in on the chat. What's this? So why all the hate last season for Lane Peterson, but the constant outcry for Gregor to be in the lineup? They're the same player.
I don't disagree with that, but at least with Gregor, you saw something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like Gregor has a much more speed than Peterson. They might not have the same creativity offensively, but at least Gregor can gain the zone.
Peterson's a good little player, but he was just brutal for the Sharks last year, and Gregor was better. I think that's where it comes from.
Oh, you know what? Maybe there's the outcry for Gregor now because we're not seeing him. Whereas Peterson, we saw too much of last season.
Maybe. I mean, well, and that's the thing. I kind of feel like if everything's going bad, couldn't you say that any changes would be welcome change?
Oh, of course. Yeah, easy targets. Simplest to hit.
I feel like if the roles were reversed and we'd seen Gregor for 30 games do nothing, I feel like we'd be like, where is Svechnikov?
Absolutely. I think I might have said that a couple months ago.
You wanted Svechnikov to be on the second line with Couture.
Yeah, for a little bit. Yeah, because that's how bad things were. Ago. Yeah, that's how bad things were.
They are still that bad.
Yeah. So I guess, you know what? My zero, I guess I'm just going to give to the goalies. Because, and Reimer just lowering that bar on the trade value. 4 of his last 5 starts, sub 900. Just
kidding.
It's bad. So, yeah, goalies, I'm sorry. My zeros for the week. Let's get into the talking points here. I mean, we're at the halfway point. So let's play Curtis Brown here. What have you liked? What's your optimism level at? What has at least made you go, well, that's not bad.
Well, for me,
that's where we gauge our optimism level right now is, well, that didn't suck.
Right. Well, I think for me, for optimism, it's the play of Karlsson, Meyer, Couture, Barabanov, and LeBanc. Those 5 specifically. Well, because you'll see. Those 5 specifically because they're playing well, right? And so if they play well enough to be part of the solution, then great. You've got good pieces that are here for the solution. If they play well enough to be traded for assets that could be part of the solution, even better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how you slice it, whether they're part of the future or they get traded for the future, either way, they're playing well. And so whichever route you take, the Sharks are going to be in good hands with those 5. I don't say Hurdle only because he could score 0 points the rest of the year. He's still not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me hit the chat real quick just because I want to call out a couple things. First off, Metal Mario saying, what do you think the trade deadline will look like? I refer you to the comment that I made to Darius earlier. We will get to that, just not quite yet, but we're not there yet, but we'll get there soon. Hot Wheels, though, love it. There's that guy outcrying for Gregor because we've seen Lindblom. I like it. Dude, I'm sorry. I've been very disappointed in Oscar. Oh boy, I'm trying to find some sort of optimism to take from this season. I I go back to what you're saying. It's like, well, you have to like what you've seen from Meyer. You have to like what you've seen from Karlsson. Obviously, it's going to be if Karlsson does half of what he did in the second half of the season that he did in the first half, if he doesn't get the Norris, somebody needs to be taken out back and beaten with a broken stick. So that I appreciate. I mean, maybe you can say a little bit of, I mean, this is really, this is the whole thing. There's a silver lining there if you really look hard enough. Benning, I did not care for at the beginning of the season, and he's bringing me around.
I agree with that.
Yeah, he's kind of the next Brendan Dillon for me. Like I didn't like you at first, but you know what? You're bringing me around.
I feel the same way about Jacob Magna.
Hello, thank you. And then Vlasic and Simek had horrible seasons over the last couple years, and I feel better about their game now. Now, to be fair, is that bar underground that they have to get over? Potentially. But at least it hasn't gone lower. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm trying to find the optimism here. So I will say in that regard, I like that. I like Nico Sturm.
Me too.
I think that was a solid pickup. So I that might be about where I'm at. What have we not liked? And here comes Jerk off the top rope.
Everything.
Everything.
No, I've not.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what I like? The new Jumbotron looks nice. I'm sorry, center hung scoreboard.
And here's the thing. So you look at Tomas Hertl, right? 37 points in 39 games. What's there to not like, right?
Who? No, I'm sorry. I totally didn't hear you for a second. What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Tomas Hertl.
Oh, yes. Okay, go ahead.
37 points in 39 games. You're thinking, what's there to not like? Well, ideally, making $8.25 million, you hope that he would be maybe not in the Erik Karlsson range, but a little bit closer to Timo Meier, maybe a little bit above what Timo Meier is doing.
Like a 1.2 point per game player
at maximum, right?
Oh.
And so I just feel like there's been too many cold spells for him compared to last year, where I feel like there were stretches where he was the only guy doing anything, right?
I'd be interested to see his games, his stat lines when he has Meier with him and when he doesn't, because Quinn seems to keep flipping those two. And it's like it's like Meier, Hertl, and Barabanov or whatever, and Couture, Nieto, and LeBanc isn't working. Okay, well let's flip that and we'll put Meier with Couture and we'll put Nieto with Hertl, and then maybe that'll spark Couture, and then Hertl goes quiet. You know what I mean?
I feel like that goes back to your idea of like spreading things out, right? I also think, and I even tweeted about it too, it's felt like Hertl has been just fighting it this year, right? I mean, you look, he had
fighting the brick wall that the motivation is behind, because that motivation is made up of money.
Right. Well, he had that sort of giveaway. I believe, I can't remember if it was against Anaheim or Boston, but it led to a goal, and it's just, it's like that guy doesn't do that. You know what I mean?
And this is what at least second, if not third time, Hertl has made a brain fart in OT that has led to the puck ending up in his net.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Berg, talk about the top rope with the super chat. Thank you so much. As a Sharks and Chicago Bears fan, wow, I am sorry to hear that. I can tell you there's nothing more gratifying like a successful tank job in a lost season. I don't know, how many games did Chicago win this season? 3 or something? I think they've lost like 10 in a row. It's not been good.
Right. And that's the thing with the Sharks, especially. Like, I kind of said it as a joke, like everything has been negative, but like that's true, right? Like you could, with the exception, to your point, with the exception of Timo Meier and Erik Karlsson and Alexander Barabanov, you can pick something out about everybody else.
I feel you.
James Reimer, especially.
Well, and we'll dial into the numbers.
Mario Ferraro, especially.
Oh yeah, that's something that I have not liked this season. He came out of the gate,
Can we return it?
Somebody bring the receipt. He had ass on fire coming into this season. And with Burnsy going out, I don't want to say his mentor, but definitely somebody that was a buddy and, played with him for however long. So it was kind of, with Burns coming out, so we got to pick up that offense somewhere else. Little did we know that Karlsson was just kind of like, no, I got both of us. It's fine. So what do you expect over the second half of the season? And let me start with a couple questions. So, because one of the things that we asked at the preview show before the season started, will the Sharks be able to produce more offense? Now, statistically, they have. If you look at it, on the numbers, now, and this is the thing that when I ran these numbers, I was like, this can't be right. And I'm like, no, I went through and looked. Dude, would it surprise you to know that right now, after 41 games, the blue line is averaging 2.7 points per game? But last season, 1.8. So they're almost a full point better this season. And that's just the blue line. The forward group, last season were averaging 5.13 points per game. This season, 5.78. So almost a half point. It's better, a little more than a half point. So they're basically a point and a half better than what they were last season, yet they've lost more games than they have at this point last season. So how is that happening? Is it just shitty goaltending? Is it horrific defensive efforts from everybody in front of the contender? Like how is this, when all those numbers are up, how is everything so bad?
Well, I think those two you mentioned, I think, are the big ones. Obviously, the goaltending, both Kakkonen and Reimer, have not been as good this year as they were last year. I think the team defense has been bad been bad for the Sharks for a while now. But again, you look like, Mario Ferraro we've talked about it, and whatever you want to say about plus minus, he's, the worst plus minus player on the team. And he's got a worse plus minus than his regular D partner, which really kind of sells how not great it's been. And, Marc-Edouard Vlasic is a minus, that whatever you want to say about the top six, like they've been very good scoring goals. They have a lot of, really bad plus minus as well. So it's just being on the ice for a lot of goals and, kind of hurts your ability to do anything. Right. And so you kind of look at it as like, the goaltending is worse, the defense is worse, but kind of that increase in offense, it's sort of, I guess, balancing out a little bit. You'd hope, but obviously the worst record tells you that that's not the case.
Yeah.
And I think as well, something to point out is the top six, as bad as the bottom six is worse this year than it was last year. But the top six this year is much better. I mean, like Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl, you can make comments about their game away from the score sheet, but at least on the score sheet, they've been good.
You think this forward group on paper is better than last season? Or you're saying last season's forward group was better?
Last season's bottom six was better, but this season's top six is better. Because last year, the Sharks didn't have LeBanc all year, pretty much.
Yeah, there's that. But then again, though, I'm waiting for you to say Balsers.
Yeah, but even then, Balsers got the jam job. Dahlin got the jam job. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I mean, Meier and Hertl, they're still doing, on the score sheet, they're still doing good things. But Couture's been more consistent. Barabanov has been more consistent. LeBanc's been more consistent. It'd be nice to kind of, Bonino or Nieto or any of the Cunnin, the litany of guys who've been rolled out on second line left wing. Like, I'd love to push one of those guys down and get like a legit top six player in that spot. I kind of think that's step one for riding the ship.
Mm-hmm. And I'm highlighting a couple comments because we're going to get to them. So Larry, Sleepy, I see you guys. I just want you to know we are going to get to those comments. It's just that we're not there yet, but we will. Another question that we asked in the previous show, can they replace Brent Burns? Yes, they did it with Erik Karlsson. Worked out.
Yes, sir. Many times over.
Yeah. Can Kakkonen be the number one goalie? So far, no. So questions
Right,
answered.
Right, but to play devil's advocate, Reimer has not really been the number one goalie either.
No. And remember, very early on, Quinn was asked, who's your number one dude? And he's like, whoever stops the puck more. And unfortunately, neither of them are. So it is what it is. But
Aaron Dell.
well, and where are the Sharks right now in the NHL overall? 29th. You know where the Athletic ranked them at the beginning of the season? 29th.
Hey, you know what? As long as they finish in the bottom three, they're going to get a superstar.
God, I hope so.
So at least that's what the experts say. Many people are saying.
Yeah. The experts. Put money on it, or you're full of it. So through 41 games, 32 points, on pace for 64 points. Last year they had 44 points at this season and finished with 77. So again, it's very difficult to see some of those other numbers be up, but to have a 13-point differential from last season. But the thing that really kicks you in the balls, and I think we can sit there and say, oh, well, they're not playing a defensively sound game, that they were better defensively last season overall, or Reimer was better last season overall. I'll tell you what I think the key is. This team, for whatever reason, can't play with a lead. They have the home ice advantage does not exist. They've won only 4 times in 21 home games. That's like, what? The Shark Tank used to be a nightmare for opposing teams to come into, and now it's a cakewalk. They've had the lead in 29 games, whether they scored first or they fought back to get a lead. Had the lead in 29 of 41 games. They only won 11 of those. They lost 18.
Do you want to know something else that's really epic?
Whip it out.
So if you look at the Sharks franchise history and you remove all of the partial seasons, right? So you take out the 2 seasons that were impacted by the COVID, you take out the 2 lockout shortened seasons, because those are obviously outliers, you take those out. If things continue on the current trajectory, this season will be top 5 worst season in franchise history in terms of points. Obviously, it's going to take a lot to outperform 1992 and 1993, but this is like I know there was a lot of conversations about historical territory when the Sharks missed the playoffs last year for the 3 years in a row for the first time ever. History is continuing again this year because they're going to miss for 4 years in a row, which continues the bad history. But again, like,
thanks, Doug.
This is early 90s level
incompetence.
Sharks.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to say incompetence.
No, it's just lack of talent, lack of whatever it is.
Lack of talent, lack of structure, lack of, I don't know.
Just whatever.
I mean, again, something happened. I don't want to go down the road of who departed the team after 2019, but since
keep telling them, I'll be back.
Ever since the Sharks have been a bad team, right? Which is going back to the 1920 season. There have been a lot of bad habits that have manifested with this team, as AJ pointed out, not being able to hold a lead, whether they start with the lead or they claw back to get one. But on top of that, the one I always point out is the Sharks seemingly finding a way to have, more players on the ice than the other team, whether that's a power play or whether that's an empty net situation, and they play like they're a man down, right? That is another bad habit. It just seems like there's all kinds of bad habits that have happened to manifest ever since the Sharks have been missing the playoffs. And so you can say a lot about the poor talent on this roster, which is there, but even the best players, can show bad habits from time to time. And so it's I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but it feels like, I don't know. I don't know if there's some kind of philosophy that's been instilled that needs to be eradicated, but
well, hold on. I thought weren't we supposed to change the culture this year?
Dude, they've been trying to change the culture since 2020.
This is all I'm saying.
and like
They've been trying to change the culture since Pavelski left.
right, but you look at the like Karlsson, Meyer, Hurdle, Couture. That is your
Vlasic.
And Vlasic. Yeah, Vlasic. Those 5, that's your I don't want to say core as in most valuable players, but that's your core when you factor in like what they bring to the table, leadership,
tenure,
intangibles, tenure, all that kind of stuff. Like those are your guys. Those are your trendsetters, right?
Mm-hmm.
The old guard is gone. I'm sorry to say. Marlowe, Thornton, Pavelski, Burns, Ryan Clough, like that old guard is gone. The new guard is firmly established. Like those specifically Karlsson, Meyer, Hurdle, Couture. The new guard is established. What's the issue?
Y'all going to be pressed when Sturm's the captain next season.
Like, what's the issue? You know what I mean? And I don't want to give the Lone Couture shouldn't be captain people any oxygen, but like there's something that's just gone sideways again. Like, take talent out of it. Just look at the habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's something.
And I would say, not to sit there and beat the Pavelski drum, but that was a guy who was first on the ice and did a lot of extras that weren't asked. You have to admit.
I mean, things definitely. I don't want to say him leaving is the reason why the Sharks are this way, but it certainly started with him leaving. I
would agree with that. Special teams over the last 7, 4 of 24. It's not great, 17%. You would hope that you'd get that number over 20, but at least it was trending up for a little bit. 15 of 18 on the kill, 83%. But as they say, those two numbers need to be over 100 in the last 7 games. That has not been the case. The one optimistic thing you can try to take away from that, the Sharks are drawing more penalties of late than they're taking. But the problem is, of course, they're not cashing in. 4 straight without a power play goal. 0 for their last 15. That shit's got to change. Goals for versus goals against by period. They're identical in the first period. They've scored 41. They've given up 41. But then everything goes sideways. Scored 44 in the second, given up 49. In the third, scored 39, let in 55, which kind of goes back to my point that I was making earlier is this team needs to learn how to play with a win. Too many times they have let teams just come back in the third. They don't know how to shut the door. And that's not the first time the Sharks have had this issue. But,
right.
But that's definitely, if Quinn wants to work on something, let's get that goal differential skewing the right way. The Sharks, how many times, we talked about this, that last season under Bugner was like the first time under Bugner we didn't see like a white flag being flown.
Right.
And you actually saw some comeback in their game. And this season, there was a few games early on this season I saw a little bit of that, but dude, over the last, I'd say 5-6 weeks, I'm starting to see like they're I'm not saying they're not playing hard, but I don't know if it's a body language thing to me or something, but man, I see like them going into the third. If they're down by 2 or more goals, that they're just like, yeah, they're just, let's go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers are so similar from this season and last season. The power play currently 22nd. Last season, 22nd. The PK last season, 2nd in the league. This year, 2nd. Face-off winning percentage. Last season, 17th. They just dropped down to 20th. So that part is a little weird. But like I was saying, dude, blue line points, they're a point per game better. I
gotta think that's all Erik Karlsson, right?
Oh, sure. Abso-fucking-lutely. Last season, 1.8 points per game from the defense. This year, 2.7. I would say 2.2 of those are coming from Karlsson.
Well, I mean,
it is literally all Karlsson. Again, it's that whole idea of like, God forbid, if they really want to tank, they're going to start bringing in somebody who like has a cold and say, hey, can you breathe on Karlsson for a couple minutes so we can like sit him, like get him to catch a cold or something so he won't play for a few games.
Well, and last season in 50 games, he had 35 points. at this current pace, he's going to have 66 points by the time he hits 50 games. And so he's very close to doubling last season's output.
Yeah. No, if they
at least in terms of points per game.
Yeah. No, I feel you. So I'm not saying that somebody needs to pull a Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan move on Karlsson, but dude, stop being so good, Karlsson. We're trying to get Connor Bedard, for Christ's sake. Take a shift off from time to time. It's okay.
Well, no, because if he does that, if he does that, then he's gonna have to hear it from you.
No, I'll be fine. No, I told you, I'm right at that moment. I've come to peace with it. I've come to terms. I'm just like, the more losses, the better. Like,
sure.
My whole thing now, my thing is like, if they can beat Chicago to the bottom, what a success that would be. Speaking of Karlsson, though, he was named to the All-Star game for San Jose. Duh. Like, who else is it going to be? You got any thoughts on the All-Star names?
There's definitely some guys that deserve to be there and have earned the right to be there. I'm not going to say that.
You're going to get into the snubs already, are you?
But you know what? Again, we talked about it a couple, while ago, whenever it was. But the current format, with the mini rosters and the divisional sort of separation and all that kind of stuff, every year players get snubbed just because there's not enough chairs to go around, which I understand based on the format. But it's like I mentioned, why is David Pastrnak? Why is he not on the initial roster? And there's not players that
was Draisaitl on it.
No.
How?
Right. And again, it's because it's for two reasons. It's the mini rosters, which limits the amount of good players you can send, but it's also the fact that every team is required to send a representative. That also limits the amount of amount of good players that can go. And really looking at the lists, there's only a handful of players where I'm like, really? Like, but I have to also remind myself that it's the All-Star game, it's for the kids and it's for the sponsors. And so it's not always the smart play to bring the best player. It's maybe smarter to bring the sexier player. Prime example, like, Mitch Marner got named to the All-Star game. I would take Nylander or Austin Matthews over him, but you know what? He had a historical point streak this season. That's something you want on national airwaves.
Yeah.
Brady and Matthew Tkachuk both deserve to be there and are both players that I picked on my own unofficial list, so I don't have a problem with them being there.
Did you forget to submit your list?
But again, brothers on the same team. That's a sexy sort of view for a national audience, right?
Yeah. You think Meyer gets there?
See, here's the thing is I don't think he makes it based on the way they currently do rosters. But if you just go by the definition of what is an all-star, he should be there.
Is there any name you think dips? Like, didn't Ovi dip like a season or two ago?
You mean like somebody who's like, thanks, but I don't want to go?
Yeah, this is very much like, yeah, thanks for the nomination, keep it.
Probably Sidney Crosby, honestly. Just because he's been there, done that, got the shirt. You know what I mean? Like,
feel that. Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot. Even and I'll do this one. This one might really, turn you into a pretzel. So again, like over the years, we've been doing this podcast now for almost 7 years, over 7 years actually, almost 7 years, which is wild.
Yeah.
And we always have the debate: what is an all-star, right? What is an all-star? What is a good player? What is the best? Who is the best player, right? So we're talking about the initial lists. David Pastrnak and Bo Horvat, who are number 3 and 4 in the league in goals, not on the initial roster. So again, I understand that name recognition is sexy. I understand that. But like, people like goals, right? Like, and again, I look like Chicago is obviously brutal and awful this year, but they still have to send somebody, which I understand. I respect that. But Seth Jones, like, you know what I mean? Ilya Sorokin, he's going to be on my Vezina ballot this year. He's not on the initial list.
Well, it's funny because I go back and forth with the whole idea of every team has to be represented. And
I think it's stupid.
And of course, I go, do they?
But I only think that makes sense if you expand the roster.
Yeah, exactly. I think once they contracted everything, I think that kind of changed the rules a little bit. But I get it because the funny thing is, well, if we exclude some team or whatever, their whole fan base will be like, why bother watching, blah, blah, blah. And I'll just run to our tweet of the week right now as we're on it.
Please tell me it's the Tortorella quote.
Who?
Please tell me it's the Tortorella quote. Yes.
That whole weekend. I don't even watch it. I don't give a shit.
That's
all of us.
He's speaking my language.
Yeah.
Because it's
honestly, the only reason who gives a shit. I will tell you, the Vegas thing, I thought like the actual game. Now here's where they get it wrong. And they did this in 2019 when San Jose hosted it. They did it in Vegas. Do not put the division that the host city is in. Don't put them in the first game, because if they get bounced, hello. I mean, we saw that in 2019. The Pacific Division got bounced in the first game, and it wasn't mass exodus, but a lot of fans left.
Yeah, a lot of people were pissy, and the All-Star game is not cheap.
Yeah, but a lot of fans, they're like, oh, Pacific Division. Oh, so the home fans that would love to see Erik Karlsson and Joe Pavelski and Brent Burns and they're already out. Why stay? Yeah. So that was a fuck up. But the thing that I did like about Vegas, I thought they made good use of the stuff that they had around them, like the thing at the Bellagio where they were skipping pucks over, and they had the gambling thing where it was Pavelski and a couple other guys, and they had to shoot and hit cards and knock them out for points and stuff. Like, I'll be interested. Like, what do they have to do? Knock crabs off dolphins or something in Florida?
Well, so if anybody listens to the 32 Thoughts podcast, they've had the NHL's director of content on a couple times, and he's kind of sort of dropped little nuggets about what might be involved. From what I understand, there's going to be a skill that's on the beach, which is kind of cool. And supposedly an alligator is going to be involved somehow.
I think they should have to shoot with a surfboard.
Right, and to the point that Ian just made, like, the skills competition is the best thing, especially the last couple of years. They've really tried to make it interesting. Like you remember in St. Louis, they put a deck up in the frickin' upper bowl and had guys shoot pucks off of it. That was cool. Yeah,
no, that was way cool. So I like the inventiveness of that part of it. But yeah, the actual game, like, it's fun. It's, to be honest, I almost feel like, can we get this all done in a day? What I mean?
I kind of go the other way.
Oh, you want to stretch it over 3 days?
I would stretch it out longer, but I would get rid of the stuff that sucks, the All-Star game, and I would add stuff like, again, the shooting from the platform in the upper level in 2020 was cool. Bellagio Fountain was obviously really cool, and doing the thing in the street was cool. Whatever they do on the beach this year is going to be cool. In 2020, they had the American and Canadian women's Olympic players play a little 3-on-3 scrimmage. That was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, that's exciting. That puts asses in seats. But I don't want to watch guys just dinking around. Oh, we're going to win 12-10. It's cool. Like, I would do, like, yeah, okay, you're going to have a lot of people whose heads spin when you say expand it from 2 to 3 days, but just fill it with the cool shit and leave the dumb stuff behind, and I guarantee you're going to have people wanting more.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that I think is so silly is the way that they've, that the whole John Scott thing has made them change all the rules from all the voting and who can get in and whatever. God forbid we have a feel-good John Scott story. I mean, dude, when was the last time you heard or saw that much hype around an all-star game?
Yeah.
I mean, I know so many people that could have given less than 2 shits about watching the All-Star game, and they're like, no, dude, I kind of want to see what happens with this whole John Scott thing. Like, is he actually going to get a goal? Is he going to be horrible? Like, there was so much stuff and drama that drew people into that. And then it ended up being such a great story. And whoa, it was what, Pavs and Burns, or were just like, dude, get in front of the net, we'll find you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh my, and then ends up taking home the van. You know, the guy who has 6 daughters takes home the minivan. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better, for Christ's sakes. And what did the NHL do? They go, yeah, let's make sure that never happens again. I mean,
Right.
come on.
And even then, and Hot Wheels kind of putting it in there, you know, like if like the All-Star game makes the goalies look terrible, like what if there's a way to, again, if you have to expand the weekend, at least add more cool stuff. What if there's a way where you can say, hey, we're still going to do an All-Star game, but the goalies are going to be like local products, right? Like, oh, you know, like, yeah, you know, it's the NHL All-Stars and the goalie is like, you know, the goalie is the goalie from Miami University or whatever, you know what I mean? Or like,
they
you know,
play
or
hockey in Miami.
Right. Or even like, you know, last year when
dude,
they did the
goalie on
year, like,
the goalie on one side is like one of the players from the water boy from the Miami Heat. And then, you know, the other player is like the other goalie is the quarterback's coach from the Dolphins.
Yeah,
just get crazy.
Right. Even like something like you look at last year, right? Like the integration, the crossover and like the celebrity and other sport integration, like Carrot Top, John Hamm, Derek Carr.
Wait a minute. Celebrities. I like that idea.
Yeah, even and you know, Wyatt Russell, who played pro hockey as an actor, Mana Rayom, who was the first female to play in the NHL. Like, what crossover, bring in other people, you know?
Okay, what celebrity is synonymous with Miami? Feel me on this, dude. Celebrity goaltender, Pitbull.
Oh, my God.
Dude, who wouldn't want to take shots at that guy? And then on the other end is, Gloria Estefan.
Of course.
No. At one end of the goal, you have Gloria. On the other hand, you have the entire Miami Sound Machine. Good luck.
But and then, of course, it creates a question. Well, what do you do for the goalies, right? And
fuck them.
I don't know. Maybe you go the other way. You know, maybe
you let them shoot first.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the goalies skate out.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, we need to get on with this. The NHL, of course, is going to allow fans to vote 10 times a day between now and the 17th so they can artificially pump up their stupid numbers.
10 billion votes.
Yeah. The one thing that I will say, like, we talked about, like, how cool the Bellagio thing was and some of that shit. You know what so far that everybody seems to be most juiced about with this upcoming thing is the fact that evidently the All-Star jerseys are going to be retro reverse. Like, they're going to have
those look dope,
dude, a Miami spin on the mid 90s that has the, you know, if you're a fan of the Dallas Stars, have that whole star design. Bruh, I gotta say, dude, tight. If the NHL was smart, which we know they are not, they would go back to the 4 different jerseys, one for each division.
I'm assuming you saw the mock-up that has been floating around. Those look tight,
dude. Black, white, you know, that Miami teal and pink, that neon pink. Dude,
that is tight.
Printing money.
Yeah.
Printing money. But, you know, Fanatics is involved, which means they'll screw it up and leave like hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars on the table.
Yeah, they'll run out on, you know, Monday of that week.
Yeah.
Assuming they get them
in. Right. So anyway, another fun thing from the Sharks is they claimed Michael Eyssimont of the waivers from the Winnipeg Jets. As we alluded to last week, Simek has been placed on IR to make room on the 23-man roster. I don't know if the Sharks purposely go after guys with the toughest names to spell, but it's fine. Is
one body.
Yeah, it's one body, and that's something that we'll talk to Ian about.
No, warm body.
warm one doesn't matter. It's the same thing. We're going to get Ian's take on that in a scotch here because, I mean, who knows how long. Yeah, but how fast will he end up with the Barracuda? I don't know.
Right. I mean, he's a decent player, but again, the Sharks have plenty of these guys.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Guy Factory. All right. Again, I want to bring Ian here in a minute, so let's finally get onto to the NHL stuff. The NHL announced the Winter Classic. I am pressed. Okay. Why am I pressed? Because
Because it's not in Tahoe.
I'm pressed because Seattle is hosting Vegas. Now, on one hand, it's cool to see two teams that aren't on the East Coast, for Christ's sakes. On the other hand, I'm asking myself, why is Vegas getting their second outdoor game in 3 years? Like, didn't they just play Colorado and Tahoe, as Jerk mentioned? How is that happening? Like, couldn't they have gone with Arizona instead, who's never played an outdoor game? Yeah, I mean, you still get the whole wet coast versus the desert, but dude, I am so sick of the same team. And I ran the numbers, dude. Chicago and Pittsburgh together have played more outdoor games than the entire Pacific Division combined. At 6 each. Chicago's played in 6, Pittsburgh's played in each. Each of those teams have played in more games than Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver combined.
Well, so let me tell you this. So there's with these outdoor events, there's two things in consideration. Like Stadium Series, who gives a shit, whatever. But Winter Classic, that's the marquee event, right? You want to put teams in there, and I know Ian is going to feel the same way. You want to put teams in there that belong to really good, really powerful television markets. That's one. Number two, and I don't know if maybe this is, some inside baseball. Maybe I'm speaking out of school here, but I'm going to say it.
Say it.
The Kraken and the Golden Knights are two of the top 5 teams in merchandise sales. So
the two newest teams are in the top. Wow. My mind is blown.
But again, you say newest, but Vegas has been a team for over 5 years now.
Still, are they still the second newest team in the league?
They are the second newest team. Okay. Yes, they are.
Are they the only team with a glow in the dark sweater?
Okay, but again, they're not new anymore. You know what I mean? That's my point.
Okay, they're new-ish,
but they're not new anymore.
Yeah, but you get my point, though.
I get it.
The fact that Arizona's been languishing since '96 is always the last dog to the bowl. And you can't even, I get it, but it's like, it's almost this kind of like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should throw them a bone for having to play in a godforsaken 4,200 seat arena named after the world's worst haircut.
No, that's their own fault. I think they should be punished for it.
All right.
I mean, it was, right?
Yeah, fair point.
Maybe pay your bills on time and you can be in an NHL building.
No, I feel you. I'm just tired of just nothing but the Eastern Conference teams. I ran the numbers, like I said, dude. The Metro, 24 games. Atlantic, 22. Central, 18. Pacific, 11. I mean, come on already. The fact that the Metro and the Atlantic have played twice as many games as the teams in the Pacific. Stop. Just stop. All right. We have more. Let's bring in Ian. Ian Reed, we were only going to talk to you about a couple things, but I feel like we could talk more. So let's start with World Juniors, sir. By the way, welcome in.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Hello. So the World Juniors, let's start with that. Why does anybody decide to play with Connor Bedard? Because he just does everything?
Yeah, Connor Bedard had a hell of a tournament, man. He's everything. He's everything he's advertised to be, and I can understand why people. I understand now why people were quick to slap the generational tab on him. I was really resistant to it at first. Yeah, I get it now. I always I always get my shoulders up whenever I hear generational, because I think it's thrown around way too liberally these days. Like it seems like every draft there's, this guy's going to be generational, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, it's probably not. Now, is there some cases where we have seen some generational talent of late? For sure we have. But I don't know. I always get my shoulders up, man. I don't like how liberally generational is thrown around as a thing. And look, getting an elite player is great. Like, there's nothing wrong with getting an elite player.
Many people are saying.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, but I think Connor Bedard's everything he's advertised to be. And I know people are upset that the Sharks aren't tanking hard enough, but it's a lottery, right? Just because, if Chicago or whoever it is going to finish dead last, that doesn't guarantee them anything. It's a lottery still. We've seen teams like there was the one year. Now the rules have obviously changed, but we saw, I think the Flyers go from like the second last team in the lottery to second overall or first overall one year. So now the rules aren't like that anymore. But my point is that finishing in the bottom 5 is still very good.
Yeah.
And even if you don't, like, there's still other players that I think, look at, missing Connor Bedard is going to suck, but I don't think, like, if they don't get Connor Bedard, then, this team is just going to suck for the next 14 years because of it. Like, it'll be more difficult to build around whoever you get, but I still think,
just think of all the blown T-shirt sales.
Yeah, I think whoever the Sharks get, I think they're gonna probably be very happy with. I think this is a pretty deep draft, especially in the places where the Sharks will probably end up drafting, be that first overall or not.
Well, there was a few people, okay, not many people, but some people are saying that Fantilli might be right up there. And then the World Juniors happened, and everybody said, "Forget what I just said."
No, I see, and I disagree with that too. I thought Fantilli, as the games mattered more, Fantilli came on.
Okay.
Like, I thought Fantilli was pretty good in the elimination games. Again, like, would you be disappointed to not get Connor Bedard? Yes, absolutely. Is getting Adam Fantilli the worst thing you could do? No, I don't think so.
No, it's a solid backup plan.
Yeah, I think whoever gets Adam Fantilli is going to be really happy to get Adam Fantilli.
So with Bedard tearing it up like that, we started to postulate over, what do you think about the idea, because Florida, the injury bug has decimated that team. Mm-hmm. They've gone into the cellar a little bit, and Montreal owns their pick along with sucking hard as well. What do you think about Montreal trading both of their firsts to go to first overall? Because both of their firsts are pretty much, at this point, just about guaranteed that both of them are going to be in the top 12, if not the top 10. Like, is that a ballsy move? Is that something that, that would just elate the fan base? Oh my God, we got Connor Bedard. Or it was going to be, is it going to be like that pic of, what's that meme of the woman with the glasses in the Montreal jersey? It was just like,
right,
losing her mind.
When they traded when they didn't draft Shane Wright.
That's one of the best memes ever.
So here's my thing. I think Montreal can try, but I think whoever secures that first overall pick, I can't imagine them giving up Connor Bedard. Like, yeah, having 2 shots is better than 1, but would I rather have 1 generational player or 2 elite players? I want the generational player.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, because you look at would you say Connor McDavid is a generational player?
Yes, absolutely.
Is Draisaitl an elite player?
Yes.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, right? And like, it's funny you brought this up because, like, the thing where John Scott a while ago. Right, John. So remember, John Scott guy you guys were talking about earlier?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Recently he brought up, like, if he was building a team, he wouldn't put Connor McDavid on it. And I'm like, no, I think I could find room for the best player in the world. Yeah. I would just do a better job than the Oilers have of surrounding him with players.
And a goaltender.
Like, imagine, and then, like, not only that, but like anyone who watched the playoffs last year, like, McDavid was the engine that was driving that team. So to John Scott be like, no, I wouldn't put Connor McDavid on my, that's because you've been hitting the head too many times with other people's fists.
I'd be interested to see how that would work. Like, I want to live in that different dimension for just a couple years just to see what happens. We alluded to the Michael Eyssimont thing. What does that do anything? Is that guy from the Guy Factory? I mean, why? Is it just because the Barracuda have been bit this hard by injuries?
Yeah, I'm curious if they think, like, if I'm curious if the play here is to see if like maybe he gets thrown in a game. The Sharks do have a lot of that guy. He has put up decent numbers in the AHL though, and I think the Barracuda could use a little bit of help on the offense, especially depending on what's going on with Andrew Agozzino, who is currently injured and not expected to play for the rest of the road trip. So I think that is a big chunk out of the Barracuda scoring. I do wonder if the play is there, but I don't know, man. Like Mike Grier loves these guys, and the Sharks have so many. Like Jerk said, the Sharks have so many of this guy. I don't.
Well, it is a factory. They turn out a lot of things at a factory.
Yeah, but the factory the guy factory was a joke about the Barracuda. It wasn't supposed to be the Sharks. The Sharks were not supposed to be the guy factory.
Well, and don't you think too, if I do agree with you that I think he would be good for the Barracuda, but I have to think if the Sharks try and throw him back on waivers, I have to think Winnipeg's going to pick him right back up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing too, right? Is like how quickly, if he goes down, does somebody pick him right back up? It'll be interesting to see. I think again, I'm curious to see how the Sharks go. I wonder if he's a guy that they've picked up and they're just kind of going to have hang out for a while until maybe some trades happen, and then he will slot in for maybe one of the guys that's moving out because no one's getting called up from the Barracuda. Clearly, that no one with
talent.
Anyway.
Yeah,
I don't want to completely like beat up on CJC.
Well, but you get what I'm talking about. Here.
But yeah, like.
Hold on. We do have some breaking news in the world of football. The Detroit Lions have, in fact, beaten the Green Bay Packers, so the 49ers will play the Seattle Seahawks next week in their playoff game. Let's get to, what everybody talked about this week. San Jose Barracuda defenseman Ryan Merkley has requested a trade from the Sharks organization, according to Frank Saravalli. Coach John McCarthy said he was caught by surprise with the trade request from Merkley, which makes me go, really? That seemed a little odd. Or for all we know, McCarthy was just bullshitting the media and like, yeah, we're not happy. Dude, Chief hasn't played since this news went public. The 3 games, right? Ian hasn't played in.
He hasn't played yet in 3 games.
That's 30. Yeah, there's been 36 games played, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So he's played in 30 of 36 games, no goals, 14 assists, which is good for third on the team, 14 points, which is 6th. So I'm just going to let you bandy this about. But again, my point being is that there were ample opportunities this season to, I don't know, maybe hold the carrot in front of them that say, hey, Merkley, if you do real good, there is plenty of space up here for the Sharks for you to get a call up if you do real good. But I don't know, maybe he saw Benning and he saw Harrington and he went, really? Is there room? But I don't know. But
and then when they did call someone up, it was Nick Cicek. And I like Nick Cicek, but like if you think Nick Cicek's the future of this blue line, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. So I mean the thing with Merkley, I think it's disappointing. I think Merkley's had he's had a pretty so-so season. The one thing I will say about Ryan Merkley, though, and I said this when I talked to Puck Guy earlier in the week when this news broke, is like, I don't think like coaching is the issue here. I think John McCarthy gave Ryan Merkley every chance to succeed on this team. Did he get benched that one game for 2 periods? Yeah, he did. But I don't really recall Ryan Merkley really riding the pine at any point for any extended period of time this season like that. That was the first for me. So like Ryan Merkley, again, I think he was given every opportunity to succeed. I think the points were there. I think he made some decent, he made some decent plays and he made some dumb ones. That's what Ryan Merkley is going to give you. He's such a polarizing player too. Let me ask you this. Was he getting top pair minutes the entire time, or was he pushed down, or did he work his way up? I mean, as far as like top pair, like he was always playing minutes. Like he was getting his time on the special teams. Except for when, there was a stretch there where the Barracuda were just like, we're just going to play 5 forwards and that's going to be that on the first unit. So Merkley would play but he got power play minutes. He got opportunities to to do everything that you'd want him to do. And like I said, it was an up and down season for him this year, but from all accounts, and again, I'm not around the team, so I can't,
You're not?
I can't say this with any, I know it's amazing. But like every time like Nick's brought up Merkley, and when he talked to us and when he's talked to other people, Nick Nollenberger, that is, he said that as far as he's seen, like Merkley's had a good attitude this year, despite everything else that's gone on. Obviously, I think after playing so many games on the Sharks last year and not really getting a sniff of that opportunity this year is probably frustrating. But, by all accounts, had a good attitude about it. So we'll see.
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, so let me ask you this, and maybe this is putting the cart before the horse here. I know you said you feel that the inevitable Merkley trade is, going to be part of a piece of a larger deal. Do you think there's an outside possibility that maybe a team would look at Merkley the way that Dallas looked at Nils Lundkvist and be like, we got to have this guy?
It's so hard to say. Here, the problem with Ryan Merkley is you have to remember, like in his draft year, like he was on a lot of teams' no draft list.
Right.
So I don't know.
Now why was that?
Because he had definitely attitude problems in junior hockey. He played, like, it's very rare for a guy to play for two junior teams unless you're getting traded to like a contender or something, or getting traded like in the situation where a guy gets traded like from a contender to make room for a guy. But Ryan Merkley played for 3 junior hockey teams and left a trail of destruction in his wake. Other than London, like there was no talks about problems in London, but there was definitely problems in Guelph. There was definitely problems in Peterborough. Now we have, again, is any of that happening in the HL? Not that we've heard of. And if there is stuff like that going on, then they've done a good job of making sure that no one's heard about it.
What do you think, as Ryan comes into the chat saying, I can see Detroit taking a chance on Merkley. I mean, and to credit, I've said this before, but credit to the Sharks for at least swinging for the fences on this guy instead of going with the safe pick, which they seem to do so often, maybe too often. But in your opinions, guys, and obviously, Ian, I'll start with you first.
Mm-hmm.
What is a realistic return that the Sharks could get for a guy who clearly, whether it's an attitude issue or a motivation issue, whatever the case may be, and one of the reasons, of course, why I ask this is because the Sharks are going to hopefully get something back for the guy and not, future considerations. But some people on Sharks social media, of course, where we overvalue everything that wears a Sharks crest, are saying, well, the Sharks should get at least one number 1 pick and a prospect or whatever. And I'm like, are you high?
That's not happening.
Yeah,
you're absolutely high if you think Merkley's getting you a first round pick.
Like, I don't know. I was going to say, I don't know that he would get a 3rd round pick and that would be it right now. Or as I think you alluded to at one point, a problem for problem trade.
You could do a problem for problem trade, but in my opinion, I think he's a throw-in on an NHL player. I think if you
Reimer.
You move like a James Reimer, and James Reimer is the guy that I use, right? Because I think I like James Reimer, but I don't think he's going to get you a whole lot in a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he was playing as good as he was last year, I still don't think that return is very good. Maybe if you throw Merkley in, you can increase the value of that return a little bit. But again, you have to find a team that thinks that they can fix him.
Who doesn't love a good reclamation project?
See, and I'm I am kind of with Ian. It is going to be hard to find a team, but at the same time, you think again, people always say, well, what is this guy's value? What is that guy's value? And
Mm-hmm.
value is really subjective because you can have teams, like as Ian pointed out, you have teams that looked at Ryan Merkley and they said, this guy, we don't like his attitude problem. We don't like this. We don't like that. We're not even going to touch him. And then you have a team like the Sharks where it's like, we can massage that out. We like what he potentially brings to the table. We're going to take a chance. And I think, you look back, I mean, the recent example, I guess, obviously, as I mentioned, Nils Lundkvist getting traded to Dallas. But again, I think that's maybe a situation where the shine hadn't worn off yet. But even with you go back a couple years, I mean, the LA Kings paid up a second-round pick for Elias Anderson, and then it's not a direct comparable, obviously, but even at that point, the shine on Elias Anderson had started to wear off, and so that doesn't mean that Ryan Merkley will get you a second-round pick, but I think if you talk to the right team, I think you could hammer out a deal that the Sharks would at the very least feel comfortable with.
Well, yeah, and look at the tricky thing here too. I want to hit something in the chat here quick. Marty said safe pick would have been Keandre Miller. I don't think Keandre Miller was a safe pick in his draft year. I thought he was incredibly raw, and I thought that it's a credit to the Rangers that he has developed the way he has, because I think he had a lot of tools, but they weren't put together when he was drafted. Back on Merkley though, I think and again, like, Merkley hasn't played the last 3 games. Why is that? Is that because maybe things are rocky? And again, look at I want to point out here that I am not reporting anything. I don't report things. I speculate rampantly. And that is what this is. So, stressing that this is speculation based on nothing. Why is Ryan Merkley not playing? Is it because there's a trade close and they don't want him to get injured in the game? Maybe. Are things maybe not as smooth sailing behind the scenes as the Sharks have made them out to be? I don't know. Maybe. And again, rampant speculation time, but we've heard a lot. You guys brought up earlier, we've been trying to change the culture since 2020. Well, we do have a new GM in place, and Ryan Merkley has requested a trade. Is this an issue of the Sharks saying, well, you've quit on the team, so now we're quitting on you until you're gone?
So, and that's a great
rampant
point.
Speculation.
That's a great point to bring up, because from what I understand, like over the last season or so, there's been nothing in the way of talk when it comes to his attitude, but his compete has been questioned from time to time, whereas a guy like Eyssimont had no, like, that's, again, it goes back to the whole idea of Greer and Quinn talking about there's a certain type of hockey that we want here, whether it's a compete level or what do they call it? Not knuckle dragger, but the grind thing, whatever. That whole idea, which of course leads us to the question right now. It's like, well, have you looked at where you are in the standings? How is that working out for you? You want to change this culture? Okay, fine, sure. But yeah, maybe Merkley just wasn't fitting the bill in that regard. Hasn't, like I said, hasn't played a game since the news dropped. And but to what you're saying about, not reporting news and just speculation, I mean, there's a reason why Occam's razor exists.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, young kids, look it up. Occam's razor. So, yeah. I mean, Jerk, any thoughts on the Merkley thing before we move on here?
No, I just as with every situation, like I am always curious to see how it ends up, and to my knowledge, it feels like the Sharks lately, and I always kind of use this time frame of like since they've been a bad team, like it seems like in this stretch they've had a lot of firsts, right? First, I mean, the obvious ones are first time missing the playoffs in 3 years in a row. It's going to be first time missing 4 years in a row, but with the very fragile sense of comfort that left with Joe Pavelski, like that was kind of the first time that a marquee homegrown talent with the Sharks went elsewhere. And now with Ryan Merkley, it's kind of the first time that they've had a young prospect sort of maybe publicly or at least privately leaked that he's requesting a trade. I feel like in this pocket of time, there's been a lot of firsts for the Sharks, and I am curious to see where this is going to go. I know a lot of people in the chat are pretty pessimistic about what could be received in return, but I always like to think that you can still get something that you're happy with if you talk to the right person.
I don't know, man. Greer has yet to pull off the Dylan Doug dentist move,
I don't know, dude. That and that draft pick trade at last year's draft was a strong contender until we saw who got picked with those picks. But,
All right. Breaking news: 49ers play next Saturday at 1:25 Pacific. So we'll see what happens with the Merkley thing. When do they play next? They play Coachella again on Tuesday, right? So
Godspeed.
If makes you wonder, makes you wonder if Merkley is going to see any time in a Cuda sweater again? Especially, haven't the Cuda had a shit ton of injuries as well? So just
it's not like they don't have room for Ryan Merkley to play right now. That's why Merkley not playing has been, to me at least, eye raising, because again, like, it's not like they don't have the room. And honestly, like, I know, like, they did win a couple of games, so people are like, well, Ryan Merkley's gone and they won games. Look at Ryan Merkley's the problem. I don't think it's that easy per se, like, and again, because like I've been mostly positive on Ryan Merkley's game this year, like, but I also understand like what Ryan Merkley is, right? It kind of, and it's similar, like I use Erik Karlsson as the example, right? I don't watch Erik Karlsson for the fucking shutdown defense.
Really?
Because I know I'm not. No, I don't, because that's not going to happen, right?
So many people are saying.
So when I watch Ryan Merkley, like, and I think Ryan Merkley has put an effort into playing defense in his own zone. Like, he has made plays where I don't think like you would expect him to make previously, just maybe not with the frequency you would like. And again, like, so again, I like the player. I think it's unfortunate that things have kind of gone this way, but it is what it is. And it's going to be interesting to see when he is gone, what kind of return they get, and if it's something that's going to help the Barracuda.
Oh, well, geez, it's. I'm just blown away how that whole thing has ended up. But what do you think the Sharks top out on a return? Fourth round pick
on his own?
Yeah,
I don't even know. If it was on his own, I have no idea.
Okay,
because again, you never know.
Okay, well then
it's so hard to guess.
I'll structure this.
Okay,
most likely on his own, with a deal, dealt with somebody else. I'm trying. What was my third option? It was dealt with somebody else on his own. Yeah. What do you think is most likely? He's going to be added to some other deal, and that'll be it.
I think he's a throw-in. Yeah, I don't think he. I don't think he has that much value on his own. But I think if you're trading with a team that thinks that they have, the locker room development, whatever, to deal with them, like I think like a team like Boston. I wonder if a team like Boston would look at Ryan Merkley.
I mean, that's a team that talk about a culture that is absolutely entrenched there. He might absolutely thrive there.
Right. I mean, because look at when the Sharks drafted Ryan Merkley, Doug Wilson was like, oh yeah, we know about his history in junior, but we have the room to deal with it.
We're aware of his transgressions. He's apologized, yada, yada, yada.
We had the room, right?
Yeah. Well, if he's never going to play again, it just makes me wonder, like, is he just going to sit?
I mean, that's the $1 million question.
Die on the vine.
I don't know. Again, like, it's the question is, why is he sitting?
Yeah.
And until we know the answer to that, and we won't find out because the Sharks don't tell us anything.
Well, March 3rd trade deadline is coming up. Rather, it's going to be here before we know it. When does the first domino fall? And will a stagnant cap lead to what so far has been, pretty uneventful when it comes to trades? I mean, Jerk, is there somebody at the top of your list going, how the hell have they not made a deal yet?
Well, I think if you take the salary cap out of it, right, I think the easy answer is Colorado, just because of how much they've struggled despite the fact that they're a good team, right? But the thing with, and you mentioned obviously the flat cap and all of those considerations, Jesus, I mean, it's over half. It's like, it's about half of the league, a little bit over half, that's in long-term injured reserve, with multiple guys in long-term injured reserve, right? So you're basically, if you are a team that's looking to add someone at the deadline, you're essentially waiting until March 3rd, to see if your LTIR guys are going to stay on LTIR until the end of the regular season. But also you're trying to accrue more cap space. You know what I mean? A lot of these teams that do want to make a move are essentially waiting until they have the flexibility to be able to do so, which is why I think if you remember last year around trade deadline season, it was the same kind of thing. It was very quiet, and then things maybe 4 to 7 days out from the deadline, things kind of exploded, right? Obviously with the Toffoli deal and the Ben Sherratt deal and all these kinds of things. And so I think it's going to be a lot of the same, where once teams have the ability to bring players in, I think is when you're going to see a lot of activity. I mean, there's some good UFAs available. I mean, the one that I'm kind of horse eyeing is Bo Horvat. Like, it's quiet now, but there's no way that guy's not getting moved. You know what I mean? So you sort of have to wait for the money to be right.
Who do you think goes before or at the deadline? Being asked by Darius. Unfortunately, Darius did not clarify if he meant that to be Sharks specific or league specific, but.
Well, I think, again, if you go to the Sharks and you look at cap friendly, right? I think the obvious answer is Nick Bonino, Matt Nieto, Scott Harrington, James Reimer, Marcus Nudavara, if he's healthy, just because these guys
How
are
has Nudavara not been waived at this point?
Well, he's on the LTIR. They can't move him.
Oh, okay. How's he not been fired at this point?
All these guys are pending UFAs, so it's kind of like, it just makes you think, okay, well, the smart money is on them getting moved out. But if you want to be, again, I've been saying all along, I just think the way that guys from the Guys Factory are constantly being added to this team, and everything surrounding playing time and all that kind of stuff, like, I'm still thinking Noah Gregor is going to find himself traded. You
would hope. I mean, if he can't find any space here,
right?
And or is it like they're holding on to Gregor until they move Nieto, and they're like, okay, now we have space for you.
I mean, honestly, maybe, but I still sort of lean towards, even though Gregory is a restricted free agent, he does have arbitration rights, and that is going to be a pain in the ass when you have to negotiate with a player that doesn't really have a whole lot to stand on, but still insists on standing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Noah Gregor is going to be the guy there. And then maybe, again, depends on what Greer thinks this team is heading for. Again, whether it's a quick turnaround or it's a long turnaround. But if maybe if you want to throw $10 on a 1,000 to 1 kind of situation, maybe if Greer's like, you know what, this team is shit and they're going to be shit for a while, let's just start now. Maybe a LeBanc or a Barabanov.
Well, that leads me to ask you, and you're already on record on this show saying that Timo doesn't get moved. So
nope, I think they'll end up signing him, just because, again, we always make fun, right? But there is still a degree of truth to it. When Rudolph Balcers got bought out, Mike Greer said, we want to bring in players who play the way that we want to play, and we've made fun about that comment so much. Oh, well, you know what, AJ, he plays the right way. But
well,
you know what,
Timo embodies that.
Timo Meier plays the right way, for one. For two, I put it out on Twitter, and surprisingly, I got a lot of people agreeing with me, which is surprising. If the Sharks trade away Timo Meier, they're going to spend 10 years looking for the next Timo Meier.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it. The Sharks traded away Owen Nolan in 2003. Timo Meier did not become an NHL regular until 2017. You really want to go 14 years looking for that guy?
I would argue Ryan Clough.
Ryan Clough, no. Ryan Clough, if you want to call him discount Owen Nolan, sure, I will give you that.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy was not Owen Nolan. That guy was at least 2 steps below, maybe 1 step if you want to be
offensively.
generous.
Offensively, yes, but as a shit disturber and someone very tough to play with against, I'd say they were on pretty even footing.
Sure, and that's fair, but
it's just,
again,
Clough lacked the offensive component.
Right, and Clough was good offensively, don't get me wrong, but not Owen Nolan good, right? And so I feel like Owen Nolan and Timo Meier is that's a pretty direct comparable. And that's
sure, both again, white guys that play hockey, absolutely.
Well, and again, Meier was drafted in 2015, but wasn't a full-time player until 2017, and so, you go 14 years between having that guy. Like, the Sharks can get 100 first-round picks, and maybe they'll be happy with that, but they're still going to be looking for the next Timo Meier, so they might as well just keep the one they have.
You might want to pin that tweet, dude.
Which
reason
one?
the whole idea of like they're going to spend 10 years looking for the next Timo, only because I've seen a lot of the paid prognosticators, if you will, your LeBrons, the one or two other higher end guys, that they're all predicting that Meier does get moved before the deadline. So I'm just saying, leave it up there, collect your foreseen points at the end of the deadline, and enjoy it. That's how we roll.
We'll see. I mean, again, would I be surprised if he got traded? No, but I still think it would be a mistake,
Well, but thinking it's going to be a mistake and being surprised about it, it's like you have $100, bet it. Which way you're going. Sharks keep them, Sharks move them.
You cut out. Can you say that again?
You have $100. Sharks,
Yeah.
Sharks, you have to bet it. Sharks keep them, Sharks move them.
Keep him.
All right, then.
He plays the right way.
Jesus, okay, we're going to beat that into the ground. I love it.
Okay, but again, like I said, we joke around, but are you going to tell me that's not true?
Not at all. Let's go back to Ian Reed here for a moment. Hold on.
Ooh, Barracuda.
Remember an hour and 20 minutes ago when Jerk said, man, we got through that quick.
I don't recall what you're saying.
Like
I famously
we were 20
never
minutes
said that.
into it, and we had finished talking about the Boston game. You're like, man, that went fast.
I famously don't remember that.
The CUDA played 3 games this week, and we're finally able to stop a ridiculous losing streak. Well, 8 games, for Christ's sakes.
Yes.
Like 4-3
games.
over 2 win over the Henderson Silver Knights. Finally would snap it. Then a 4-2 win over the Ontario Reign. Bordelot would get 2, including the game winner, leading the team with 7 shots on goal. Knyazev, if I'm saying that correctly.
Knyazev, yes.
See, Knyazev and Knyzev. Who's it?
Kanizhov.
Jesus
Knyazev.
Christ. All right, I guess I start doing
Who,
it.
by the way, has started skating with the regular group again. Very
Yes,
exciting.
fuck, which means less room for Merkley. Anyway, 2 helpers, Brady and I'm going to just say it the way it's spelled, Rydell.
Rydell is correct.
All right. They both got their first goals of the season. Dell saves 28 of 30 in that one. Merkley went on the trip for whatever reason, but missed his second in a row. And then an absolute shelling by Coachella, a 4-0 loss. McInerney getting no goal support in this one. Saved 27 of 31. But hey, former Shark Alexander True was the second star of the game, so there's that. In the 3 games, I mean, dude, Ian have just decimated the defense, screamed about the special teams. Anything change for you in this in this short week?
No, I mean, a lot more of the same, right? Coachella's the best team in the American Hockey League. I think at full strength, even with Eyssimont in the lineup, they're, even I think a full strength, like if you bring back Derek Pouliot and everyone's healthy, I still think that the Barracuda are going to have a hard time holding their own against the Coachella Valley Firebirds. I thought they played a decent game against Coachella Valley, all things considered. I thought McInerney had one of his better games. I haven't really been a big fan of McInerney since he got sent back down from the Sharks. I don't think his play has been anything to write home about, but I thought he held his own this game. Again, Coachella Valley's just really, really good.
Yeah, well, because they have True and Tennyson. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they have other guys too. But Alex True, I mean, it's nice for him. He went to Seattle obviously via the expansion draft. So I don't hold anything against him there for going to a better team.
Sure. Let's see. So Knyazev.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only because Puck Guy is saying, hey, could be worse. Could be Stern, Sturm, Stewart, Suter, or Sutter.
That's true.
I prefer that though.
So the Barracuda are currently sitting in 7th. But with the AHL playoff format, that is a playoff team.
So what, do they let everybody in? 80% go in? Is that what it is?
It's a 5-round playoff, so
Hey,
it's wild.
the more the merrier.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which should make people nervous though, because obviously the whole talk about the NHL expanding the playoffs, like that always, the AHL is where they test a lot of this stuff. So is this a sign of what's to come in the NHL? I don't know.
oh,
But
now,
it could be.
now that's what I call fucking yikes. Leaders right now for the Barracuda: Bordelot at goals with 17 assists, Agazzino 16 points, still Agazzino 26. Dell with a 901 save percentage, still right now better than any Sharks goaltender. 325 goals against. McIniemi, 895 with a 3.24. And Man right now, 899, 2.85. But, of course, Man right now with Wichita. So take that for what
getting
it
those
is.
frequent flyer miles in
Dude.
for Strauss-Mann, unfortunately.
Again,
Like I think McIniemi, I don't have an issue with McIniemi pulling the number of starts he has. I think for like a lot of the Barracuda season, he was very good and he did earn the starts. It sucks that they have three goalies that they can go to at any given time, because obviously Strauss-Mann, being the lowest guy on the totem pole, unfortunately gets sent to Wichita to get playing time in, and he's been really good in Wichita.
Well, remember, that's
obviously
only until the Sharks get rid of Reimer, and then somebody comes up.
right, and then someone will come up, and then Strauss-Mann will be able to play some more games with the Barracuda. It is what it is.
Lacey pointing out that Holloway finally back. Pouliot should be back this week. Raska is forever day to day, and we have no idea about a player named Hatika.
Yeah, I'd like to see Hatika get back, but I have no idea when he's back. Derek Pouliot, I think, is going to be a huge boon to this team. Getting him back,
huge.
That's a player that they desperately need back.
Whoa.
Again, Derek Pouliot is a guy who I would be very angry with him on my NHL team, but as an AHL player, he's fine, and I think he's the kind of guy you want. He's the kind of guy you can rely on to kind of anchor that blue line. So I'm really looking forward to him coming back and seeing how the Barracuda look there.
All right, so real fast here. I mean, top four guys right now that are, I don't know, sautéing, marinating, baking, cooking, whatever. I mean, it's clearly what? Bordeleau, Eklund, Coe, Gushkin, anybody standing out for you? Is there somebody? Do you think any of those guys, just based on 41 games that the Sharks have played and been zero movement for them, do you think anybody gets called up before somebody gets moved? Like, I don't want to say, I can sit there, somebody's going to get called up. Well, yeah, because they just traded Nieto and Bonino and this guy, so there's space.
I'm curious to see how they play that, but I just feel like with adding guys like Eyssimont, like it just seems like they're just
keep them down,
continuously just throwing bodies at the problem and not letting them come up. The one player that you didn't mention, though, who I think has been really, really good, that should get shouted out, is Tristan Robbins. Also, I think has been really good.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So, and prospect of the week. I was laughingly going to say, oh my God, who was it? I was going to say, I was going to call out a particular defenseman, because I'm like, look at this guy. He's doing so great with his point per game status, because he was at 2 points per game. Oh, Gannon Larocque. But because at that point he had literally played one game. But anyway.
Yeah, Gannon Larocque, though. I mean, it's good to see finally the Sharks, their prospects on the defensive side getting healthy. Gannon Larocque has missed he missed the entire season, basically. So it's nice to see him get back into the game and start immediately putting up points. Havlid was injured over playing in Sweden, and he is back and he is playing again, and he had a good game on his return as well. So that's positive to see. And, we didn't talk about when we were talking about the World Juniors, but like Philip Easted, the Sharks' first round pick this last, or the first pick that they made last year, he was tied for the lead in points for Team Sweden, who I think had a disappointing tournament, but that's still positive.
And where was Bistad playing?
Center, Sweden?
No, I mean, but like top line minutes, where is he at?
Yeah, I mean, he was one of their go-to guys offensively. So he was getting minutes all over the place, and I thought he had a really good shot, and I think he played. Like I said, the points speak for themselves. I think Sweden in general maybe didn't have the tournament they would want to have, but I thought he was really good.
Well, our focus of the week, defenseman Jake Furlong with the Halifax Moosehead. In 35 games, he's posted 4 goals, 22 assists. That's good for 0.74 points per game. He leads all the prospects with a plus 26. Now, if you want to put that in context, Shmolevsky sitting in Russia with a plus 11. So that's huge. So, defenseman Jake Furlong, you are the prospect of the week. So we already hit our tweet of the week. We have no giveaway, although for the people that are waiting for their giveaways, they are forthcoming. Jerk is going to be writing that for, I don't know, the next week or so. We'll figure it out. So the Sharks are going to play 3 games this week, so they say, at Arizona. First visit to the Bad Haircut Arena. I'm looking forward to this and all the Desert Dog mentions from Randy Hahn. It'll be... I'll be honest, guys. Have either of you guys watched many home Coyotes games? And I say that a little bit sarcastically because there haven't been a whole lot.
I watched their first one just because I was curious.
Jerk?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see how the camera angles are. I remember watching 1 or 2 games and I went, meh, all right, it's better than a Cuda game, but is it? I don't know. Then they play the Sharks will play the LA Kings. That is a national game on TNT. And let me put the brakes right here for a moment. The game early this week on Friday night versus Anaheim was one of those ESPN Plus games that people love to lament and dump all over because ESPN, for the most part, has proven to not be that great at this whole NHL thing. And I would agree with that. A lot of people love to dump on Leah Hextall. I go back and forth on that, but it wasn't Leah Hextall. We got Roxy Bernstein. I will say, Roxy Bernstein, I thought, did a hell of a job. I hope he gets the call on more ESPN games because I thought he did great.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised not to get Leah Hextall. I'm not going to lie.
Yes, thank you. And then hosting Edmonton. So right now, if you look at where everything is sitting, Arizona, if you're a Sharks fan, depending on where your head is at, you're really hoping the Sharks lose that one in Arizona. You want to keep Arizona above you on that race to the cellar. So we'll see how that game works out. I don't have the record. What is the record? If I can pull it up, or if one of you guys could pull it up, what is the record that the Coyotes have at home? Because I can't imagine it's awful because they've only played 5 or 6 games there.
They right now their home record is 7-4-2.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. If you're a Sharks fan that is hashtag tank for Bedard, you're going, yeah, bring it. LA, last I looked, second in the Pacific Division and kind of putting some heat on Vegas. Last I looked, I think they beat Vegas this past week and did it with authority. I think it was a 5-1 shellacking. If memory serves, I think a lot of people were saying it was the worst loss that Vegas has experienced this season. So, again, you're like, all right, Sharks are looking good with LA. And then, you got to go to Anaheim. Or, I'm sorry, they're hosting Edmonton. And last looks, Edmonton, their record at home is a losing one, but their record away is not too bad, 11-6-1. So again, all signs pointing to a tremendously awesome week for the Sharks. And when I say tremendously awesome, I mean 3 straight losses. That's what we're rooting for here, guys. We want generational talent up in here. So we will catch you guys next Sunday when all of that is over. But remember, we go live after every single one with After Dark, featuring Puck Guy, Ian, Landy, Dana, Mark, or some reasonable facsimile or combination there within. So make sure you check them out after every single Sharks game. And hey, Brody isn't doing Sharks Live or Night Switch or Nightline or whatever he was doing. He's not doing it anymore. So we're all you have is what I'm saying.
Well, even if he was still doing it, we're all that they have anyway.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we're like the phone company. We're all you got. Deal with it. So on Twitter, you can follow him at hockey_jerk. You can follow him at Ian Blogs Hockey. You can follow me at AJ_strong. Did I get that right, Ian?
Yes.
Okay, because you've changed it several times. I have to keep
I changed it once.
It felt like many times. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave your take in the comment section of this video. If you were unable to join us live, you can find links to our social media, podcast apps, and more, all included in our show notes. You can always find everything on tealtownusa.com. And if you want to join the Discord where the party never ends, because Hockey Jerk will not allow it, you can hit him up on the Twitter machine again at hockey_jerk or via the jerk email hockeyjerk10@gmail.com. So last looks, guys. I'll start with you, Ian. I mean, you got those 3 games this week. I just said it like, dude, bring me the 0 for 3.
Yeah.
I want that record. I don't think it's out of, it's not crazy to consider. But what are you looking for?
So.
What are you looking for this week? I mean, anything? Are you looking for the power play to finally get on the board after going for 0 for 15? Are you looking for something, some sign of life from?
Be awful.
I'm sorry?
I just want everything to be awful.
Yeah.
Awful but entertaining. That's all I want. That's all I've ever wanted this season. Awful but entertaining.
Are you looking from a pulse from either Reimer or Kakkonen this week?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would like to see. Again,
Reimer,
I don't think
let's see Reimer.
I want to
really
see
good.
Reimer increase that trade value. Although I think again, like there was times where I feel like if teams really wanted James Reimer, there was a couple of points this season where I think it would have been very easy for them to call up Mike Grier and be like, "Hey, James Reimer, what do you want?" I just feel like there's been teams that have had that this year and they haven't called. So I get a little worried.
Oh, and Lacey pointing out Sharks need to lose to the Yotes because they have lost 5 in a row and now have fewer points in fewer games. So that, oof, ouchie. Yeah, go in, lose it. Sit. Okay. Jerk, say it with me now. Bench Karlsson.
No, we can't do that because then if he doesn't play, you're gonna make some comment. Oh my God, I don't even think he's out there.
No, I told you. I'm all in. I'm like, hey, dude, doesn't he have 2 kids now? Like, hey, go have family time. We'll see you back in I don't know, July.
Jerk, I need you to go back and capture this audio so that we can use it in the future.
No, I'm all in, baby.
Of course, sure you are. Whatever you say.
What do you want to see this week, Jerk?
Jesus. I mean, I do kind of agree with Ian. I want to see excitement, among other things. Like, if the Sharks win or lose, I don't care. I want to see something good, something interesting. You know what I mean?
Entertain me, bitches.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't really have a lot to say. Jake Middleton swore on national TV. That was nice. Fun. Like, again, like I don't know, the 49ers are in the playoffs, you know, like it's just the happenings around the Sharks are so negative that I feel like I'm naturally drawn to like everything else, right?
Sure.
But you know, if the Sharks can be exciting, you know, if like again, like even if yes, we want to tank for Bedard or any of the other legit top prospects that are going to be available in that range, that's obviously what we all want. But we still want the Sharks' good players to be good, right? You still want Barabanov and LeBanc and Karlsson and Meyer. Yeah, you still want these players to be good. You know what I mean? You're trying to build a foundation here. And that's what I just want. I want the guys who are going to be here beyond this year, I want them to like have good seasons and continue to like build that foundation and make progress. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you, my kind of closing thought is I would love to see in some way, shape, or form some national writer, because Jerk, you love to talk about there's always a hero. I want there to be a hero that is a proponent that is going to fly the Barabanov flag.
It'll never happen because, you know, because he was in Toronto and didn't work out and got traded away. So by that logic, he automatically sucks forever.
He wasn't a Greyhound, Jerk.
That too.
I want to see a LeBron or a Wyszynski or a Lucian, somebody to come in and be like, hey, here's or 32 Thoughts, you know, just come to, hey, for those of you who haven't noticed, this guy named Alexander Barabanov has like scored in 4 straight games, or you put up points in 4 straight games, you know, like might want to give him the horse eye, you know, It just, dude, that that Barabanov jersey that you've been like silently horse eyeing from afar in Vegas.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Feels like a solid purchase. I'm pretty proud of.
You know what the
Well,
problem is?
you're
though, AJ?
welcome for
Sorry.
telling you who he is.
Yeah, right. What, Ian?
I say, so you know what the problem is though, right? Like you'd want to see that happen, but like these people want you to watch their trade deadline day show that's going to be probably dreadfully boring because nothing's going to happen. So they're not going to talk about Barabanov. You're right. They're going to talk about Timo Meier.
Well, and to kind of wrap this up, that was kind of something funny I noticed during the Anaheim game, which again was an ESPN game, so you got the national guys there. Boy, dude, that broadcast, if you paid attention, they were doing a lot of talk during the third period about the Sharks moving out Meier, moving out EK65, and a couple other names. I didn't hear Barabanov's name mentioned in there, nor should I think he should be mentioned. But if you had to see now, okay, here's the money play. All right, I'm going to start with you, Ian. You have $100. You have to place the bet.
Okay.
Who are you betting gets? I'm not saying either, but I'm saying most likely to try to maximize your money. If you have to put the cash on the table, who are you betting on to be moved by the deadline? Meier, Karlsson.
Meier, because Karlsson leaving's a pipe dream.
Jerk, same.
Yeah, I mean, in the land of reality where Santa Claus doesn't exist, it's neither. But for the sake of this argument, it would be Meier between the two. Because again, like Karlsson can put up 200 points this year, and that contract is still wild to take on in a COVID cap era.
Even if the Sharks eat, $4 million.
Dude, even if they eat 50% and then another team eats 50%, you're still taking on an injury-riddled player. You're still taking on an injury-riddled player for 4 years.
Yeah, I love Erik Karlsson, but like, and NHL GMs are stupid. Like, don't get me wrong, but like they don't have amnesia. They know how we got here. Like, I look at Erik Karlsson's having a hell of a year, and I am an Erik Karlsson guy through and through. But like, I know what's happened the last 4 years. I know what most of this contract's been. I don't see it. I think it gets clicks and it's sexy, but there's no way. I will be shocked.
Oh, does
Absolutely
it get the clicks?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
and so there's a couple things I want to say. So
Say
back to what you said about Barabanov, like just wondering, like, is he going to go, like wanting more people to talk about him, all that kind of stuff. Couldn't you say at this point, if he was going to go somewhere, he would have done it by now? Because think about it. He's on Toronto. You come up to that trade deadline. He told his agent, San Jose looks pretty good, and made it happen. And then re-signed after not a long sample size. And then after last year, which was all kinds of nonsense, as we saw, trade rumors, COVID, poor play, injuries, all that kind of stuff. He's like, you know what? 2 years will be good here. And pretty much the entire time he's been in San Jose, if you ask me, he's been underpaid. And so I kind of like what I was talking about before, and we've talked about previously with contracts, sometimes the money is not really what it's all about. And if you're happy somewhere, you kind of stay there and you'll take what you can get.
There's a reason why they call there's a reason why they call it a hometown discount.
Right. Like, I bet if Barabanov had left as a UFA, I bet some team would have given him $4 million. But he's like, you know what? I'll take my 2.5 and I'll stay here.
Is it Barabanov or is it Barabanov?
I think it depends on the day of the week.
Okay, cool. Because that was something else. I think somebody yelled at us, and I'm like, really? That's the thing. Like, we talked for 2.5 hours. Yeah, and the thing that you want to like get on us about, like, no, it's hey, respect for talking about the Sharks for 2.5 hours. No. You need to learn how to pronounce Barabanov or Barabanov or what. I'm like, really? Okay, fine.
And according to Hockey Reference, which has phonetic spelling, it's Barabanov.
Okay.
Barabanov.
Well, the next time I talk to Chief, I'll make sure to ask him.
Right. And then the other thing I wanted to say, this is kind of, I do have to kind of stick it to you a little bit, AJ.
Oh, stick it.
You stick it, baby. You said
What did I say?
that you said this like 2 years ago, so I wouldn't be surprised if you don't
Jesus
remember.
Christ. Okay.
I'm
sure I remember this like it was yesterday. Go ahead.
You said by the time we reach the halfway point of Erik Karlsson's contract, which for those who don't know is summer 2023. Oh, weird. That's now-ish. You said.
What did I say?
You said if by the halfway point of the contract, Erik Karlsson is not in the Norris Trophy conversation, it's the worst contract ever. So are you prepared to make a statement now that we're before halfway and he's in the conversation?
So I will say it's not the worst contract ever. But I mean, dude, I go back to what I'd stay with what I said, dude. I mean, you played for he's in fourth of the 8th year of an 8-year deal, right?
Year 4 of 8.
Yeah, year 4 of 8. So he's in the conversation. So yeah, I stay with what I said. Like, it would be the worst contract ever. The fact that he is in it right now, and as far as I'm concerned, they should already be etching his name on the fucking thing. So I don't think it's the worst contract ever. Is it still the worst contract for the Sharks right now? Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
And then I want to go to what
Mark
Ricky.
Edward Vlasic exists. Wait a minute.
Well, okay, you make a fair point. But I want to go to what Ricky just said in the chat, which was, I think you guys are too hard on the Karlsson contract. He is worth $6 million a year when he was playing bad, worth $9 million now. Okay. The problem is he's making 11.5. You feel me, Rick?
Yeah, and I don't think the Sharks want that. I know they have dead cap that they have to work through, but like, if you move him and like retain a ton of salary, that's a lot of dead cap. I mean, I understand that the Sharks are not going to be good to next year and probably not the year after, but depending on how things go and what the cap does and free agency classes, there is a way out. But if you have that much dead cap for 4 years, I mean, oof.
Oh, dude, it's huge. Yeah. That's why I've believed that I've said this to Jerk very early on, is that once we saw that the younger guys, when they were in desperate need of offense with the Sharks, and we didn't see the Eklunds, we didn't see the Bordelos getting any kind of a call-up to try to fix the situation, to me, it seemed pretty obvious fait accompli that this is Mike Grier spending his time over the next season or so, that it's, okay, we want to instill this culture, right way to play, be hard, blah, 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 all the superlatives, all the noise that you want to say, but it's almost a mask of saying, yeah, we want to instill this culture of being a really hard-nosed team while we bide our time getting out from all these ridiculous contracts that Doug Wilson handed out.
Yeah.
Getting out from under Vlasic, under Karlsson, under Couture, add name here. And in fact, I'm sure when Grier came in, his first question to Joe Will was, Hurdle, 8 years, really? So anyway, I think with that, we went on way too long. Again, like 2 hours ago, Jerk was like, man, this show's going, we're already done talking about that. And here we are. So we thank you so much for listening and hanging with us this week. Oh my God. Jerk, man, is next week our final takeover, or is that 2 weeks from now?
Oh man. You know what? I think it's next week. No, it's
the 22nd.
No,
it's the
not.
22nd.
Damn.
Funnily enough,
we're not that lucky.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Funnily enough, yeah, because we had Monday off, right?
True.
For MLK. So yeah, we're not quite that lucky. Yeah.
Who's we?
We? Who's we, white man? So
that day is unfortunately not part of my day off packages, unfortunately, but it's okay.
Well, so we thank you so much for listening, and next week we'll be here for the first time in 2 months that we're going to be here for this 2 weeks in a row, 2 consecutive weeks at the same time, 7 p.m. So we thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us this week. In the immortal words of Hockey Jerk, say it. Say it. We'll see you next Sunday, everybody.